All right.
Hello. Welcome
Hello.
back. Welcome back. Welcome back
Another
to Have a
exciting
Strong
episode.
Weekend. I'm
How are
Andrew.
you?
I'm
And I'm
good.
Josh.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. It's hot.
It's hot, and it doesn't get any hotter than letter L, which
That's right.
is
L for Louisiana.
L for Louisiana. L for our next episode as we take this long and winding road through lost and forgotten television shows, one steamy hot letter at a time. And we're up to letter L. And this week, we are at Land of the Lost. We are taking our raft, riding down the Colorado
river
River
to nonsense.
into the door of time. Into the door of chaos.
Gotta be the most odd, like as a children's show. It's very much Sid and Marty Krofft, very much.
Well, they actually were the creators. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So very much just bizarre ideas, a horrible budget, low budget, like choices. It's great. It's great. It's greatness. Yeah.
What do you get when you cross a bunch of low budget costumes with bad acting and not a terrible premise? You get Land of the Lost.
It's really not. It's got it all. Claymation. If there's an earthquake, it's just the camera shaking.
Well,
it's just dudes in costumes.
For those who don't know what Land of the Lost is, we'll give you the synopsis. Land of the Lost was a television series that aired on Saturday mornings on NBC, part of the Sid and Marty Krofft morning, and it ran from 1974 through 1976, 3 seasons, 3 mostly complete seasons, and it was the premise or the synopsis or whatever you want to call it is very simple. It was a family finds themselves fighting to survive in a land populated by dinosaurs and other worldly beings, and that's pretty much all you need to know. And there were 3 main stars. It was a family of 3. It was a dad and 2 kids, which kind of reminded me of this just popped into my head. But do you remember Escape from Witch Mountain, Escape to Witch Mountain, Return to Witch Mountain? All those movies. That was a dad and 2 kids, I think.
Yeah.
But the
Do
3
they ever
stars.
explain where the mom is? I don't remember.
No, well, that's one of the funny things about the show is that they jump right into it. I watched. We're going to talk about a particular episode, but I watched the pilot, the pilot, very loose term, and they jump right into it. It's there's no backstory given really at all. It's they're whitewater rafting, and their raft goes down this huge waterfall, and they are in Land of the Lost. And it's just real quick, I want to talk about the 3 stars. It starred this guy named Wesley Ure, which Gen Xers will remember. Kathy Coleman played the daughter Holly. Wesley played the brother Will. And then Marshall. No, they were the Marshall family. And then Spencer Milligan played the dad, Rick. I think that's his name, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty much, those are your stars. And sorry, Josh, what were you going to say? I think I stepped on you a little bit.
No. It's hard to know if they had writers for the show. I mean, they did, of course. What's weird about the show is there's no means to an end. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I obviously aimed at kids that aren't even going to know. They're not. There's no kids going like, "What's the conclusion?" Because there is. It just keeps. They go there and they struggle to like figure out the world, and they don't want to. Obviously, they're trying to survive, but there's really nothing's coming later. Like, what's the end to this show? It's like maybe they get back to regular life, but that's not. It doesn't feel very fulfilling. It's like what's the point?
Well, it's funny because they talk about getting back home briefly in each episode. I
Yeah.
watched a couple episodes because I'm a professional and I do my homework. So I watched a few episodes just to give myself a little bit of background, and they they briefly mention going home in each episode, but then they're off on an adventure. And I did a little digging and I found out that the season 3 finale, they don't even get back. So the end of the show, they don't even get back home. Like the show got canceled.
It's depressing.
So they never get back home. Like they're stuck. They're still there.
So that proves my point. The one goal, of course, they were canceled, but the one goal that they had, which really was an obvious goal to get back home, they didn't even make it. They're like sealed up into this world. It's very like almost doomsday.
All right, so let's back up a little bit. Did you watch this as a kid?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I watched probably the whole series. Yeah.
I think I think everybody our age is aware of this show, and if they didn't watch it as religiously maybe as you did, or maybe as I did, they at least are familiar with the premise, and they're probably familiar with the monsters, these aggressive. They're supposed to be aggressive. It's real weird. They're these humanoid lizard creatures. They're called Slee Stacks, and so they pop up every couple episodes.
Slee Stacks. That's such a Sid and Marty Krofft like made up word, like Slee Stack, and they're called Slee Stacks. I can see the writers' room right now.
Well, so here's something that always confused me as a kid, and I found out the answer 40 years later, I guess. There were always 3 Slee Stacks that were always chasing him, and as a kid, you could fool us to a certain extent, but at some point we start to catch on. And I just was like, I remember as a kid thinking, well, are these the same 3 Slee Stacks that they just keep running into? And in actuality, that wasn't the intent, but they only made 3 costumes. So there are only 3 Slee Stack costumes that were made for the show. So that's why you always see 3. And they would try to kind of disguise it with special effects, which never really translated very well to me anyway. But they tried to make it look like there were more of them. But I always figured it was the same 3 that were chasing him. But that's probably what a lot of people thought, but that really wasn't the intent. It was actually supposed to be several.
Yeah, I always thought it was more than 3. Yeah. So I guess they did. I guess they fooled me.
They fooled you.
And I've never seen.
Can't fool this guy, though.
Can't fool me. I've never seen worse acting inside a costume. Because the way they move, do you know what I mean? Because they're not talking. Obviously, their voices are overdubbed, right? So, or the main guy that's like scary, going or whatever. But when things are falling on them or they're moving, they're always going like that. It looks like bad movement. Like it's great.
It probably wasn't a very versatile costume. I'm guessing that it was probably hard to move around in there.
They have to get people skinny enough to get in it because they were pretty skinny costumes.
And we'll show a clip of them here in a second. But they Yeah. The thing that I guess also confused me is that, and I guess they don't really have to explain this, but it's like, even as a kid, I knew that cavemen didn't exist at the time of dinosaurs. And so there were some cave people, as well as these lizard men, whatever you want to call them, as well as dinosaurs, all sort of cohabitating the same land. So it's a time warp, it's a dimensional portal, whatever. They don't have to explain all the science behind it, but it seemed like it wasn't like they were going back in time necessarily. It was like they were just going to this alternate reality, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
But
they don't explain it, but it's totally like that. And it took, the dinosaurs throw you off for sure because it makes you, as a kid, you're thinking they went back to dinosaur times, but then yeah, there's cavemen and Slee Stacks. There's gleep glops and floopty doos. It's like,
and the thing is, like, I even today, I'm obsessed with dinosaurs. I always have been. Dinosaurs are just like, that was it for me. So I remember loving this show because you would occasionally see dinosaurs, even though they're so, I mean, the stop motion is, I mean,
it
God
did
bless
scare
those
me as a
people.
kid though. Like at the
Oh
end
yeah.
of the intro music when the dinosaur goes roar, like it worked because we weren't used to seeing anything better. So it just,
Yeah.
all you had, your imagination had to really go further during those days because the visuals were, until like Jurassic Park came around, we had to provide the entertainment
That's right.
and our
Well, I'll
own
tell you what,
minds.
since you bring up the opening theme song, why don't we show that?
Will and Harvey Marshall, as the earth beneath him trembled, lost their father through the door of time. Uncle Jack went searching and found his life, looking for a way to escape from the land of the lost. From the land of the lost. From the land of the
So funny. So did whoever wrote the music, did they know what they were writing? Was that the show they thought they were writing for?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they just had to describe it, and then they were, and not to mention, we should say that intro is a particular. It wasn't the original, and there's a reason for it. I don't know if you want to go into the father and why that looks so bizarre, but so the guy, what's the actor's name? Spencer
Spencer Milligan.
Spencer Milligan was the who played the father. Apparently, he was arguing up a storm about, I guess, the show, or just kind of making a ruckus, and
He wanted merchandising rights.
wanted merchandising rights. And yeah, so obviously they were like, no, and they fired him. So you could see that the new intro blatantly explains him away. Like they lost their father. It's like okay, so they're literally just cutting him off. They're not even paying. They're not even like making a storyline. Really, he just like gets sucked back in, and it's real fast in the episode. They literally, it's like a snap of a finger, and suddenly Holly's crying because he's gone, because it just shows him spin off, and then they bring in Uncle Jack, and they're totally fine after that.
They get over it real quick, and that's one of the funniest things
Yeah.
about the show in general is the way they are so accepting of all this weird stuff that's happening to them.
Yeah.
Even in the first episode, So I picked I randomly picked this episode. I didn't really understand the what was behind it until you
It's a
and I
good
started
one.
reviewing it. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
so season 3, this is the premiere of season 3. The episode is called Aftershock. And what happens is season 3 starts with a hurricane, starts with an earthquake, and the earthquake knocks the dad, Rick, back through the portal back into reality, we
Yeah.
assume. And the explanation, that was the explanation given. And the reality, like you said, was because he got into a dispute over merchandising rights. And so he didn't even come back to film like a goodbye scene. They just used actually one of the writers put on a really bad wig and just stood, and they filmed him from the back and spun him around a bit and threw him down the portal, and
He's
that's
done
it.
this. They're like, just stay still and we'll spin you around in post.
Yeah.
So
We'll fix that in post. And yeah, and then he's gone, and then like his uncle or his brother, I guess, comes through the portal, their uncle. And yeah, you're right, they're upset for a couple minutes, and that's pretty much
Then
about
Uncle
it.
Jack shows up and they're all good.
Yeah. And then the show carries on. So Spencer Milligan, he was, well, how would you
You describe
describe
him as like a
his?
character actor. I think
Yeah.
to me, he always stuck in my brain because he was on an episode of Police Squad, which, if people know the Naked Gun series, that's what those movies were based on. And he did have a familiar face, certainly a very '80s type character type actor. So he probably could have. I feel like he could have continued on and been like a little bit better because he's a real actor, but probably one of those guys who just had a bad attitude, and then they blacklisted him after demanding more money, and then he just did whatever till his career was
How great
over.
would it have been if that's actually what happened? If they actually if his explanation for why his career dried up in the '80s is because he got blacklisted over a children's television show.
Land of the Lost. After
Yeah,
Land of the Lost, I really couldn't get much work.
yeah, that's okay. We're not going to go with that, but
Yeah, not a good. I mean, probably not good that he was on the show.
you're right. Still alive, by the
Not
way.
gonna help.
Still alive.
God,
Still
how
alive
old is
and
he
kicking.
now? Man, he's got to be up there.
He's probably in his mid 80s. So yeah.
Wow.
He actually opened an acting school in Dallas, Texas.
He
In
did?
the
What
in the
school
late
is
80s.
that? Oh, okay. So maybe it's not around.
Yeah, I don't know. You gotta stop by and check it out. See if he's still there. But yeah, he was
Spencer!
in.
Spencer!
Yeah, I'm
Man,
looking
if
through
he
his
really
eye.
was there and he still owned it, I'd track him down and be like, you got to tell me about Land of the Lost. Like, what was it all about? Why are you in Dallas?
I'm looking through his IMDb. There's really nothing there. Nothing there worth mentioning. He was in Logan's Run TV series.
Oh, yeah. That was decent.
He was in there for one episode.
Oh.
But he so then the other co-star, Wesley Ewer, I'm guessing I'm pronouncing his name right, I don't know. He was he, he was actually who they were kind of, for lack of a better word, building the show around. He was the older brother. He actually performs the opening theme song. I don't think
Oh,
he
is that
wrote it.
him?
Yeah. He didn't actually write it, but he does perform it. And he actually performs a couple
Oh.
songs later on in season 3. I don't know how. I really don't know.
They find some instrument, or
I
or
guess
they
so.
just, like everything else, they just like he just starts singing and music starts happening, probably, or
Yeah,
something like that. We'll have to
exactly.
research that.
What's that?
We'll have to research that.
Yeah, we'll have to research that. Maybe we'll include a link on our
Yeah.
Facebook page. And then of course the girl who was, when I was watching the show, she was probably closer to my age, so I actually remember her the most. But
Yeah.
her, Holly, her real name is Kathy Coleman. So, Josh, I did a little bit of digging into her IMDb,
Oh, okay.
and uh, what I found was that she never did anything else. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, she. This was it for her. She ended up going and working on a farm in Nevada, and uh, and then ended up getting divorced and then moving back to LA. But she's written 2 books, though, 2 memoirs about this show. So
wow.
for those of you who
I, I
want
I
to,
wouldn't think you could get 2 books worth of material out of the show, but I guess so. What kind of scandal was going on?
they're they're the same. There's the same information in each book. It's
Yeah, I dare you to read those books.
well, I can't resist a dare, so I guess I'm gonna have to now. Maybe I
Yeah,
can get her to
please.
autograph it.
You
Uh,
probably could. I mean, you just send her an email and she'll be like, sure.
yeah, and I take it back. She was on a couple others. She was on an episode of Adam 12. I think a lot of these occurred before. She was on an episode of Adam 12. That's it. Uh,
Okay.
and so I hate to pick on the poor girl, but I was reading her trivia. You know how on IMDb they give you a little bit of trivia bullets about each
Yeah.
person. The things that popped up in her trivia, there were only a couple. One of them was she loves it when fans recognize her as Holly Marshall, and that her proudest her proudest moment as an actor is when some guy told her that she should be in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Some
That's it.
guy.
Some guy. That's how it's worded. Some guy told her that she should be in a Quentin Tarantino movie, and that's her proudest moment as an actor.
What?
So
I mean, and again, you're right. I don't want to like rain on her parade too much, but it's a weird phrasing because you would think it would be someone specific
yeah,
that would tell her
yeah,
that, not like a random person, because that random person has no power. So what would be cool if it was actually, obviously Tarantino would be the best choice to tell her she would be good
right,
for a Tarantino movie, or
right.
someone in the business who's got at least has some kind of know-how, and it would be like, oh, I mean, that's sort of like a glimmer of hope, but some guy,
One of the
that's an
biggest
odd.
compliments I've gotten in recent years was from a guy who told me I should do a Quentin Tarantino movie. He said I'd be a natural for it.
Okay. All
There you
right.
go.
And maybe she would. That's the thing. I mean, maybe Tarantino, he does revive careers. So all right, well, that's fun.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a little bit of background noise. I'll have to edit
That's okay.
that out.
That's all right.
But yeah, so that's what I have on her.
Yeah.
And I want to show a couple.
Yeah. Let's
parts.
see another clip.
Yeah, let me do
to.
this. All right, so let's watch an actual clip from the show. I'm going to pull it up for you now. Do you have any specific scenes from the show that you would like me to show?
I mean, probably the Slee Stacks or Chaka.
Oh, Chaka, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Is that
Let's do the
volume
Chaka.
one?
No, but I'm scrubbing to the part.
Oh, you're scrolling. Gotcha.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, let's pull up a scene that is Chaka. We haven't talked about Chaka. He was the primate / caveman who is also on the show. And, like I was saying, you have these different...
His forehead. Anything with a big forehead is funny.
I learned that Chaka, the name Chaka, the creators, the writers, the producer, whoever created this show, whoever created this mess, named Chaka named Chaka after Shaka Khan. Apparently, the Shaka Khan and Rufus song "Tell Me Something Good" was popular when he was writing the show, so he named the character Chaka after Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan. Shaka
So
Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka
Shaka
Khan.
Khan. All right, so here we go. Here's a little bit of Chaka.
So far away. But where? Chaka not know. When ground shake, Pakuni much fear. Run away. Well, didn't you run? Chaka run. Her foot. Not keep up. Big hole up in the ground. Hole much long. Pakuni on one side, Chaka on other side. Chaka alone.
Hey, Chaka. Same thing happened to us.
That guy's such a soap opera actor.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
And the Pakuni will look for you.
So, Chaka, stick with us until everybody
Let's
finds
eat.
everybody else.
that teeth, that makeup, oh, it is beautiful.
Chaka not alone. Right.
Now look,
Chaka not
Chaka,
alone.
Chaka not good with words.
I don't know.
Anyway, so there you go. There's Chaka.
Yeah, so Chaka, let's chat real quick.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
first
chat
of all,
about Chaka.
I always I don't characters that have broken English like that. There's something not fun about it. I don't know what it is. Like how
Something not fun.
some jump into hole. Like I just like I don't know what it is. Like so there's him, and then do you remember that movie Upworld or No Name Norm?
I'm very familiar with it. Yes.
You remember that one? That's
I
a
do.
great one. I'm recommending that one to anyone out there.
Yeah. A
So
gnome
that little
named Norm.
and that little character spoken, like trying to piece together English just enough for the audience to understand what they're saying. I just do not like it. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me.
Is there? So it's a trigger for you. I wonder. So like, is it a sign of lazy writing, or is it lazy character development? Because it's kind of a cheap way of showing that the character can't speak good English. I don't know. Like,
well, yeah, it's just like it's breaking up the character dynamic. You've got one caveman with a large forehead and horrible teeth, and then the instinct, I think, in all of us, if any of us were writing, would be to make him talk like that.
Yeah. Well, that's
but that doesn't mean it's not lazy.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. There's something about it that's very off-putting. I don't know what it is.
It's like they're trying to go like, what few words can he get out to where the audience still understands it? And just like, I can see the writing. That's just like, ugh.
Yeah. You're right. There's something really cheap about it.
Not alone.
It's like, well, if he had talked normal, would we have really had a problem with it?
Yeah, I don't think so. What's really funny is later on, Uncle Jack meets him for the first time when Uncle Jack shows up, and Uncle Jack is not at all impressed or shocked. He literally is just like, he's kind of laying there next to him, and then he like shakes Chaka's hand, like they meet, and he's like, well, how to do, sir? It's kind of like that. Like, you're next to a caveman or a cave kid or whatever.
There's I don't know. It's hard to.
I love it though. There is a campiness to that, and it's great.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like if you and I went through a portal like this, a portal dimensional whatever door of time kind of thing, and we're thrown back into this world, would we just have to just get over everything real quick and just sort of accept that we're going to run into all kinds of nonsense? I mean, like, do you?
Yeah. No time for your brain to explode, I guess. Like, oh my god.
Or would we be having meltdowns every 10 seconds? Like, I mean, I don't know. I
wonder if we would be making jokes.
What's that?
I wonder if we would be making jokes still, like nothing's funny anymore. Like we're like, oh, like, yep, There's a dinosaur out there. I don't.
As we're getting crushed to death by the T-Rex, we're like making jokes about it.
Yeah, and Slee Stacks are like looming large, like zeroing in on us. Slee Stack, we need another. Bring out the fire. The Slee Stacks are here.
Yeah. The last bit of trivia about the cast is that the Wesley Ewer guy, the guy that I was talking about, that the show was sort of that got top billing. I guess that's a good
Whatever
thing.
that means.
Whatever that means. He was actually on a show in the 80s, a game show, kids game show, not Double Dare, but Finders Keepers. Do you remember Finders Keepers?
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't as popular as Double Dare, but...
No, it was sort of a second-rate Double Dare. It was it was two teams of kids that would answer questions or something like that.
I assume he was the host.
He was...
Depends on where his career was at.
He was always hiding in one of the rooms that would get ransacked. No, he was definitely the host. So he went on to big things. The Spencer Milligan and Kathy Coleman, maybe not so much, but Wesley, big time.
Nice.
So
awesome.
I'm at a loss for Land of the Lost. What else you got?
Yeah. How many Chakas would you give? Would you give this show?
I have a hard time. I have a really hard time being too hard on this show because this was pre-Star Wars.
Yeah, and it is what it is. There's not. They mean it to be what you're seeing. It's not like they're trying to make it something more than it is. You know.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it was a full 3 or 4 years before Star Wars, and there are a lot of things that are very reminiscent of Star Wars. I think the Slee Stacks look like some of the aliens from Star Wars. So
100%. Yeah,
it's not out of the realm of possibility that this might have inspired maybe certain elements of that. I don't know. But with that said, it's a pretty bad show. So I will give it five Chakas out of 10.
Okay, I'll give it. Let me etch that up to 5.5 Chakas.
Okay. We'll
Chaka,
settle at
give
5
it
and a quarter.
5.5 star. Does that make sense?
I understood what you were saying.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure because. yeah, 5.5 Chakas for sure. Yeah,
5.5 Chakas.
You got to give it props for the campiness, even though it was basically just low budget, but it turns into campiness now. And influential for kids, very memorable. It did spawn another movie with Will Ferrell, if you remember that. I don't know if you've seen it. Obviously, they basically made it more into a joke, and kind of lost an opportunity though. I feel like they really could have tried to make it more of an epic, and maybe more of a tribute rather than the butt of a joke. But I don't blame them for doing that. It's probably very hard to get away from making fun of it. So
they probably went the right route.
Probably the right route. Yeah. But anyway, there was also a reboot.
There was also a reboot of this show in the early 90s. There was a Land of the Lost that came out like in 91, I think.
Was there? Man, that must have been short-lived because not even I remember it.
I don't remember it. We were well beyond that kind of thing at that point, probably. But there was another run at it in the early 90s.
More into girls, less into Slee Stacks.
Yeah, Slee Stacks. We're not doing it for me at the ripe old age of 13 or 14.
Yeah, right. Got it.
But well, Josh, as always, I enjoyed it.
I did as well. So much fun. What a great show. Sort of. It's
a show. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's a lost and forgotten show. It's a land of the lost and forgotten. We once as always, you can follow us on Facebook, or you can like us on Facebook. You can follow us.
Subscribe below.
You can subscribe right down below. You can go to our website at Have a Strong Weekend for all of our back episodes if you would like to do it that way. Of course, we're on Spotify and all the other podcast catchers, if you will, and Instagram. You can follow us. Give us a like. Give us a review. Tell us what you liked and what you didn't like. Tell us what we got wrong. I think we probably got a few things wrong. So, but anyway, until next week, Josh, have a strong weekend.
Have a strong weekend. I stopped it.
Okay.